Hello?
Miss Lestico, guess what time it is?
What time?
It's time for math!
Yay!
Hey, first grade, welcome back to another day of measuring.
That's right, and I can tell that we're doing pretty much the exact same thing as yesterday because, Miss Lime, our target has not changed.
That's right, it still says I can use non-standard measurement to measure objects.
Well, before we start measuring objects, I know yesterday we talked about a lot of those rules that we have to use using non-standard measurement.
That's right, we said we have to make sure that all of our objects are the same. Because we're using non-standard units, that means anything we want. They really have to all be exactly the same size so we can use them to measure.
And we know that when we're measuring an object, we have to make sure we're starting at the beginning and then going all the way to the other end. We can't start in the middle or stop in the middle because then that's not the whole length or height of an object.
And while we're measuring, Miss Lestico, it's important to make sure all the objects are touching. No gaps in between my objects, and they definitely can't overlap because that wouldn't give me an accurate measure.
And part of that overlapping is making sure that we measure in a straight line, because if you go up like a mountain and then back down, you're not going to get an accurate measurement.
Yeah. Well, now that we've had some practice with these rules, Ms. Lestico, I think we're ready to measure a whole bunch of objects today.
That sounds like so much fun. Let's get started.
Okay, the first non-standard unit of measure we're going to use are these fuzzies. Now, we need to pay close attention right away to rule number 1. All the objects need to be the same size. Now, these fuzzies are super cool, and I really like them all, but I'm noticing some are really little, some are kind of medium size, and some are a lot bigger. So before I can measure anything, I need to get a group of them together that are all the same size. So I can see right here, here are some that are kind of the same size. I think those will definitely be the ones I can measure with. They're different colors, but it doesn't matter what color they are as long as they are the same size. Okay, those all look like the same size to me. Oh, here's a cylinder. Oh, I remember when we were learning those 3D shapes. Here's a cylinder. I wonder how many fuzzies long a cylinder is. I know that I need to start at one end and measure until the other end. And I definitely don't want any gaps. So I'm going to make sure that my fuzzies are touching each other, but they're not overlapping. So let's see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 fuzzies. So this cylinder is 4 fuzzies long.
All right, it's my turn to measure something. And I'm going to use my crayons as my form of non-standard measurement. Now, I know our first rule tells us I have to make sure that all of these crayons that I'm using are the same length. So I have these crayons that seem to be the same. Oh, that's a broken crayon. I'm not going to be able to use that one. So we get rid of our broken crayons, and then all of these crayons look to be about the same length. So those should be good for me to use to measure. And I'm going to be measuring this pair of scissors. Now these scissors are kind of an odd shape, and so I'm going to have to pay really close attention to make sure that I am measuring in a straight line so I can get the full length of the scissors. I don't want to try to follow the edge of the scissors with my crayons. I want to make sure that it goes from the beginning all the way to the end in a straight line. And we're making sure those crayons touch end to end. There shouldn't be any gaps or any overlapping of the crayons like this because we don't want them to be staggered. We want them to be in a very straight line across my scissors. Well, I'm noticing that my crayons are a little bit longer than my scissors, but that's okay. I don't have to get rid of a whole crayon because then I wouldn't have measured to the very end of my scissors. It's okay for it to be a little bit longer than my object because that way I know that, oh, this looks like it took about half of a crayon in order to reach the end of the scissors. So I could count, I could see that 1, 2, and a half crayons made my scissors.
Okay, the next thing we're going to measure is the spaceman. Now, I can see he is pretty tall or pretty long already. So it wouldn't make sense, really, if I was going to measure him to use something teeny tiny because I'm going to need a whole bunch of them, right? Like if I decided I wanted to measure with a grain of rice, it would take a whole lot because I can see he's very big. So I'm going to try and pick a unit of measure that's a little bit longer. And I know, what if I use markers? Markers are going to be a great choice because it's going to be easy for me to make sure that my markers are all the same size. So I'm going to start measuring this spaceman, and I'm going to make sure to start right at his head. And now I need to put another marker right beside, and oh my goodness, here's my spaceman. Now it's like this much away from all the way touching his feet. Do I need to add another marker? No, it would be way past him if I did that. So he is 2 markers and a teeny tiny bit more. But it's close enough that I can say that the spaceman is 2 markers long.
All right, I'm going to measure this box of markers using a non-standard form of measurement that we have in our classroom, some teddy bears. So I know that our teddy bears are all different sizes. We have some that are really big. We have some that are medium. We have some that are really little. I'm going to need to pick a kind of teddy bear that I think would easily help me measure this box. I don't want to have to use too many of these teddy bears. So I'm going to pick the big bears because that will take less for me to measure this pretty big box. I'm going to make sure all of my teddy bears are the same size. Now, starting at the very top of the box and on the beginning, I'm going to make sure all of my teddy bears are lined up touching. I want to make sure that they're not overlapping or any gaps in it. And so we are touching each teddy bear all the way across the top of the box. And they're going in a straight line. The teddy bears aren't going up or down at all. They're going from one end to the other end. Now this last teddy bear that I had to add, he looks to be just a little bit over the box, but it's a little bit over. It's not mostly over. So it's okay to add one more when you know you're really, really close. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teddy bears to measure this Mr. Sketchbox.
It's your turn.
On Seesaw, you are going to have some more objects that you're going to get to pick your own form of non-standard measurement in order to measure.
There are so many amazing ways that you can measure. We can't wait to see all of the non-standard units you end up using. And of course,
when you're done, click that green check mark.
bye!